Hello, I'm Lisa Koenigsberg, founder and president of Initiatives in Art and Culture, and the organizer of Boldly Building the Future Gold, Diamonds, and Jewelry in a Transformational Age, IAC's 12th annual Gold and Diamond Conference. Every year, there are new challenges and new examples to consider of ongoing issues that we consider annually. Among these, origin, conflict, regulation and documentation, and sanctions. Certainly, the situation with regard to Russia and the Ukraine presented urgencies with regard to these issues. And it was our view that an update from the Kimberley process and the World Diamond Council were critical. We were pleased that Edward Asscher, distinguished diamantaire and president of the World Diamond Council, agreed to participate in conversation with distinguished journalist Rob Bates. And now we present the video for your consideration. Thank you.
I'm delighted to be introducing this next part of the program, although I don't know if the gentlemen in question are getting mic'd. So one of the things that we've heard both discussion of and reference to are issues surrounding diamonds, among them the current Russia-Ukraine situation. And I'm delighted that Edward Asscher agreed to come and provide, if you will, an update from the Kimberley process and the World Diamond Council. And he is going to be in conversation with Rob Bates, who moderated the excellent Origins panel earlier today. And I also am going to call out Ronnie van der Linden, who is in the front row, who I'm sure has much to contribute to this exploration. So as soon as the gentlemen are mic'd, we will have them take their seats. Also, one thing you'll get tomorrow when in the handling sessions that the Scottish Goldsmiths Trust are going to have and that Amina will have, you'll be able to look up close at the motif in the necklace that she's wearing, and I think she may have another piece or two. So you'll be able to see those that line up close, in addition to other things. So I'm switching this off, and they are taking over.
Oh, we're taking over now? All right. All right. It's my pleasure to introduce Edward Asscher, who's been president of the World Diamond Council. This is your second go-round, I believe. And how long have you been president of the World Diamond Council?
First 2 years, and now 2 years again, and 1 more year to go.
Okay. So we figured he would give us a little update on what's going on with the Kimberley process, with the KP. And he said that I can ask some pointed questions. So we're going to try. I respect Edward a lot, but we're going to see what we can get out of him. I'll try my best. I guess my question is, I spoke to some people, some officials recently. A lot of people are kind of, especially in the governmental level, getting a little frustrated with the Kimberley process, especially after what happened at the latest session regards to Russia, that there wasn't even a vote to discuss it, I guess. They couldn't even agree to discuss it. And one of the things that I've heard a lot is that the KP is a, quote, baseline. So, how do you look at the Kimberley process, and how should we look at it as far as, what it guarantees and what it does?
There are no limits in your questioning, but this is a very basic question. What does the Kimberley process mean to the world diamond industry now? For those of you who don't know what is the Kimberley process, it is under the United Nations, established in 2003, and it has 3 pillars. at the moment 86 governments, civil society, and the World Diamond Council representing the whole diamond industry. And the KP is the basis of everything we do. The KP means that rough diamonds being exported get a certificate from the legitimate government of the country, and when they are imported, they need that certificate in order to have the right to import it. So without a KP certificate, you cannot do business. That means that the definition of conflict diamonds is limited to diamonds in the hands of rebel movements and who try with the proceeds of the diamonds to overthrow a legitimate government. That's a very limited definition, and that's what all the discussion is about for the last 10 years, 15, yeah, 10 years. We want a wider definition. But the Kimberley process is also based on consensus. That means that we are only observers, like civil society. Consensus means that all governments will have to agree to the new definition. We had a review cycle a few years ago, and when we were almost there, one of the governments said, maybe not. And then it stops. We will start a new review cycle next year under the chairmanship of Zimbabwe, who is the incoming chair. And we are now already working on how to prepare to get a new definition and what we should do. The KP is only the basis. On top of that, we do much more. But the KP is really important for the diamond industry. And I'm open to listen to criticism because it is not perfect, but it's the best we have to keep the supply side of the rough diamond sourcing clean. And that's a start.
Right. So, but given that you have not been able to expand the definition, correct? Which you have tried to do. What does a KP certification stand for? Like, for example, when I go to different sites, they'll say all our diamonds are KP certified. That means they're conflict-free. And yet, there certainly have been situations that would arguably fall under the general definition of conflict that have received KP certificates. So what do you think it stands for? Do you think it's accurate when people say, okay, everything is good, we have a KP certificate?
It's not a perfect world. You can't say everything is good. Everything is 100% good. But if I would say it is 99 point something good, then it means that the majority of all the diamonds in the world have been conflict-free, according to the present definition. Why is it difficult to change the definition? Because countries don't like, if we have a wide definition including every aspect of human rights, in some countries, they would say, yeah, but it can be used for other things than the diamond industry and the diamond mining, and we don't want that. And that's legitimate. We have to listen to that because we have to convince those countries that even a wider definition cannot be used in aspects that they are not meant for. If I look at the present supply chain of rough diamonds, I'm pretty sure that there are very few conflict diamonds going around. Because with the KP, we follow all the diamond streams in the world by statistics, all the exports, all the imports. And if something happens that a country which is producing very few diamonds is suddenly exporting a lot of diamonds, then we can see it in the KP statistics. And one example of that is of a few years ago, but it is a great success of the KP, was Liberia. It is next to Sierra Leone. Liberia was exporting millions of carats while not producing them. So these were conflict diamonds from Sierra Leone. the United Nations Security Council started sanctions on Liberia, and as a result, Charles Taylor didn't have the money to keep up and pay for his soldiers, and oil imports and all of that. And in the end, when he traveled, we were able to arrest him. And I'm proud to say he is now sitting in jail in the Netherlands because of conviction by the International Criminal Court. So that is a few years ago, but it is one of the great examples that the system can work. And we follow it exactly. If I look at one of the hot issues, Central African Republic, we look carefully at the export, at the pictures of every diamond that they export with a KP certificate. So what are we missing there is the diamonds that are not legally exported. The Central African Republic has green zones and red zones. The green zones are exported with a KP certificate. Now the question is, are there any red zone diamonds coming into the green zones? Probably a few. The production in Central African Republic in general for diamonds is very small, but it could be that there is a contamination. And that's why we in the World Diamond Council say that we don't want to expand the green zones of the CAR till there are more experts on the ground that can follow exactly what happened. The expert we had was fired, and we now have a new experts financed by the Security Council, so we can have a closer look at what is happening.
Okay, but getting back to the issue of, since you haven't got the human rights language, correct? So you've had situations where diamonds from Merengue, which are linked to violence, receive KP certificates. You've had situations where diamonds from in Tanzania that were linked to violence had gotten KC certificates. You've had situations where diamonds in, I think in Angola and DRC that had kind of violent outbreaks also received KP certificates. When people, I understand that your definition of conflict diamonds, but I think most people use it interchangeably, the idea of conflict diamonds and blood diamonds, right? So do you really think, given all that, and we'll get to Russia in a second, which is another issue, that the KP can say, okay, we don't certify blood diamonds?
Well, you can't generalize. You have to look at each individual country and each individual mine. If you look at Tanzania, one of the most famous diamond mines in the world, the Williamson mine, there are lots of stories about how he discovered it. In the end, it was sold to Petra Diamonds. Petra also bought the mines from De Beers in South Africa. And there was a lot to do about what happened at the Williamson mine. And it was dealt with. It was not easy, but it was dealt with. What had happened actually is that Petra, not being very experienced in Tanzania, when people came into the fields to steal diamonds, they called in the government troops. And the government troops were trigger happy, and all kinds of things happened that should not have happened. When the industry approached Petra Diamonds, there was a whole research done about what had happened, and in the end, Petra paid millions of dollars to the people involved, and it stopped. Can it happen again? Yes, it can happen again, because you never know with these things. The same with other countries, yes, and each time you have to look at the mine and at the country and deal with it. You can't generalize and say, oh, there is something happening in Angola, which is a very big producer of diamonds, so now we should put sanctions on the whole country. That's not a way to do it. Let's put it different now. Look at Zimbabwe, because I'm a firm believer in Zimbabwe since recently. There has been a lot to do about Zimbabwe, and there are sanctions from the United States on the production of Zimbabwe. USA is the only country with sanctions on Zimbabwe. In other, like in the EU, they stopped the sanction. And there was a lot, Marenge, there was a lot of human rights violations in Zimbabwe. And we followed it, and we followed it with the NGOs there. Recently, in Botswana, we spoke to 3 different NGOs working in Zimbabwe, and they told us something we had hoped for when Zimbabwe came up as incoming chair. It was comparable with Angola. Angola wanted to become the chair, but the situation at the alluvial mining in Angola was absolutely not acceptable. So we told them, before my time, we told them that if you want to become the chair of the KP, you first have to clean up your production and what is happening in Angola. They did. And only a few years later, they could become chair of the KP. When Zimbabwe became incoming chair, we said, we hope the same is happening. And when we were in Botswana a few weeks ago for the intersessional of the Kimberley process, those 3 NGOs told us that the situation in Zimbabwe has very much improved. So now I feel confident about what is happening and that they are the chair. If there are still sanctions on Zimbabwe diamonds in the USA, but for whatever reasons they might be, they might be also political, but that's beyond the scope of what we do.
Right, but you know, before all this happened, there were diamonds that have been linked with violence that got KP certificates. I mean, that's inarguable. Do you think that just relying on a KP certificate is enough, given the inability to change the definition?
I have to think about it. Both answers I can give are wrong. If I say yes, then it's not 100% true, and if I say no, it is not 100% true. So a KP certificate is a guarantee that the diamonds have been officially exported by the government according to the rules and standards of the KP. If in a certain mine or a certain area there are violations of human rights and we hear about it or they are brought to our attention, we are acting about it. So my statement is that 99% plus of all diamonds exported with a KP certificate are correct. Behind that, I don't know.
Okay, let's talk about Russia, because that's obviously not a small percentage, right? So, do you think that you know, the kind of popular definition of conflict diamonds is diamonds that fuel conflict? Given that Alrosa, which is a primary diamond producer, is 1/3 owned by the Russian government. The Russian government is currently involved in a pretty ugly war in the Ukraine. I mean, would those, under your personal definition, I understand not under the KP's definition, but perhaps under your personal definition or the WDC's definition, or perhaps the definition of most people in this room or the average consumer, would those be considered conflict diamonds?
I think now we have to be very careful in how we formulate things, because it's very easy to say, but let's look at the facts. We know the definition of conflict diamonds. Russian diamonds do not fulfill that definition. Whether we or you like it or not, that's the truth, and we cannot change. You know, the definition is the core document established by the United Nations, and if someone says, yes, but Russian diamonds are conflict diamonds, blood diamonds, or blood-stained diamonds, it is, according to the definition, not correct. And because of what is happening in the world, we cannot just like that say, oh, but they should be. We have a law, and the law is the core document, and it is derived by the UN. as long as and according to that definition, in 86 countries, the laws have changed so that they follow this definition and this system. And whether we like it or not, I cannot change the system without changing the law, and that is beyond my influence at the moment. That's why we, the World Diamond Council, for the last years, strive for a change of the definition. But as long as it is as it is now, then to regret of some, I can say the Russian diamonds are no conflict diamonds. The 1/3 belongs to Yakutia, 1/3 to the central government, 1/3 in the open market. You can buy and sell those shares. And that's the situation we have to face. And there is, of course, a lot to say and discuss about this, but those are the facts.
Okay, so they don't match the definition of conflict diamonds. So I guess the question that people keep having and that everybody's wondering is like, okay, if the Kimberley process won't change this definition, right, and the definition in a way kind of is this very narrow, kind of counterintuitive thing that I think most people, if you asked a person on the street, can you define conflict diamonds, they would, consider it analogous to blood diamonds, diamonds associated with blood, diamonds associated with conflict. Do you think that, given it is so narrow, that it's at some point you say, okay, this is so limiting that we need to really go beyond it? I told you tough questions.
No, but you have to define what you mean with go beyond it, because that's the whole thing what it is about. I cannot go beyond it as long as it lasts. So there is an other side of it.
Well, you can, I mean, when I say go beyond it, I mean that companies need to take individual actions, or the diamond industry needs to kind of perhaps act on its own or act in a different way to formulate different standards beyond this kind of very limited KP.
Yeah, there are different standards. I'll get to that. But what you see here is, this is the definition. These are conflict diamonds. But we are talking about ethics, about morality in the diamond industry. And there, every company, every individual has to decide for him or herself whether they want to buy, produce, polish Russian diamonds. And it's on the demand side that people can do a lot if they want to. I'm neutral in this, and I can explain why for two reasons. One reason is we represent the whole diamond industry, including countries where no sanctions and would like to polish Russian diamonds, or have always polished Russian diamonds. That's number one. Number two is, if you represent or pretend to represent the whole diamond industry, and suddenly one member is out, and you tell the consumer that they shouldn't buy those diamonds, then you form a cartel. And if you form a cartel that's illegal in the United States, it's illegal in Europe. So it's something we cannot do. I can say that people have to follow their own opinion about diamonds. But I cannot give an advice, because I don't want to be a cartel. I end up in jail. So this is something that is the borderline of if you represent everybody. If you represent only a part, then you don't have that. So then what to do? What to do is build step by step on the basis of the Kimberley process certificate. I have given it a lot of thought. Can we arrange a KP2, a new Kimberley process that includes much more than what we have at the moment? I've talked to various people about it, and it is, I don't want to say it is complicated. You need the UN Security Council to agree with it. And if you have seen what happened recently in the UN Security Council with vetoes, then that is not the way to do. So we have to live with what we have. then what we do? We build on the basis of the KP. So we have the system of warranties of the World Diamond Council that we ask people to fill in, which basically means that they have to do their own due diligence about what they buy and what they produce and how they operate. There is the RJC. Mark Hanna here is heavily involved in the Responsible Jewelry Council. The members of the Jewelry Council are certified by an external auditor to do their business correct and to respect a responsible supply chain. My own company has been certified, and I can assure you it ain't easy, but it is done. And then there is individual corporations, like De Beers, in the past Alrosa, but also others, that have their own system, their supply chain policies, and sometimes a blockchain. And there is very big companies like Signet and others that have a sourcing policy that if you want to supply them, you have to fulfill all these conditions, and I can assure you the book for the supply chain for Signet is hundreds of pages, which you have carefully to follow, otherwise you can't do business with them. So when we have to live with the present KP, with its shortcomings, you can build layer and layer upon layer to make it more difficult for conflict diamonds to enter the mainstream. And that's what we do. At the moment, it's the only thing, apart from changing the definition or starting another KP.
But I mean, talking about the KP shortcomings, you admitted that it has shortcomings. In that way, it is only a guarantee against this very narrow definition of conflict diamonds. It doesn't necessarily give perhaps consumers the peace of mind that perhaps they would have sought. Is that correct? Would you agree with that?
Well, there's a big difference between what consumers expect and what we are talking about in the industry.
Yeah.
The industry says this is the diamonds we have, they are conflict free. If the consumers have very high expectations, that means that these diamonds fulfill every wish that they can think of, the answer is no.
No, I'm not talking about every wish. I'm just talking about, not being associated with violence.
That's a perception.
Yeah.
And the perception that what we supply is that these are no conflict diamonds. That's the reality. These are no conflict diamonds. The perception is it perfect? Can we guarantee that there are no human rights violations in that country? No. In that area? No. In that mine? Yes. Is it always perfect? Look at Petra's story, but there are more stories like that. No, it is not perfect.
So, I mean, you've been trying to change the Kimberley process definition for years and years. In this latest meeting, even though Ukraine is probably the biggest topic in the world right now, the Kimberley process wouldn't even discuss it. Is there, at some point, do we say, okay, this process is stuck where it is. It's perhaps okay for what it does, but it's stuck where it is. What's the point of continuing to argue and fight over something that is not going to mature, is not going to evolve?
The Kimberley process is not perfect, but you have to work with what we have. And it would be very stupid to do it away for various reasons. One of the reasons is the 5 million people who depend on it in Africa, the millions of people in India, and the millions of people in the whole diamond and jewelry industry. So easy to say, let's do away with it and we start all over again, but that's not the way the world works. We have to deal with what we have and improve and build on it. That is my job, and that is what we try to do together with others.
Right, but we, as far as improving on it, it's, I mean, have there been any major improvements in the last couple of years?
Yeah,
Or?
there's been major steps. I was talking about Zimbabwe, but last year in Russia, when Russia was the chair last year, long before the war, not very long before the war, we had this frame 7, as we call it, the 7 principles of responsible sourcing, including human rights, social rights, environmental issues, anti-money laundering, anti-corruption, community building, and I always forget one. But that was accepted by the Kimberley process plenary. And it is not only accepted, it was also used by the government of India, which first had a lot to say about it at the negotiations, and in the end they used the same principles of Frame 7 to give the monopoly of the import of rough diamonds to the Gem and Jewelry Promotion Export Council. And so they use it. It is a fact of life that this Frame 7 is used. Can we make the definition of conflict diamonds in Frame 7? Well, I hope so, but I doubt it, because it is so wide.
Right, okay, so, I mean, that was done by Russia last year before the invasion of Ukraine. I think a lot of people look at Russia very differently post that. Perhaps we shouldn't have. Perhaps we should have had our eyes a little bit wider open. Do you, at this point, you know, I would assume Russia would be very nervous about any kind of change in the definition, because it could possibly affect them, right? And since just one country is, and that's in addition to all the countries that have vetoed the change of definition in the past. So at some point, it seems that for the foreseeable future, we're not going to get any kind of change of definition. I think that's, would you agree with that?
No, the Russians have not withdrawn from the change of the definition. If we look at the Russian production in Yakutia and elsewhere, what happens there is absolutely 100% according to the rules of the KP. They mine diamonds as it should be. There are, as far as I know, no violations of human rights during the production of Russian diamonds. They have done a lot. So Russian diamonds are fulfilling the KP standard. The
Right.
The next step is the definition. There are countries, take one example, China, that every time has said, wait, it is not our mandate in the KP to discuss this at the moment. Look at what is happening at the Uyghur situation. So you must, if you want to include them and not let them veto it, you must make the definition, the new one, in such a way that it includes human rights violations in the production areas in the world, but cannot be used for every violation of a human right. So we have another narrow definition, but it is wider than what we have now.
Right. And you think that could pass, even with all this stuff going on, even though it hasn't passed for the last decade?
I'm a realist. It won't be easy. Mm-hmm. If I was not an optimist, I was not sitting here. I think we have to look very realistic at, and then what would the definition be? That we have to discuss with lawyers so that it fits what I just explained, without being possible that it encompasses every human rights violation in the world, because then you'll never get it done. You won't get it passed through 100 countries.
Right.
Yes, it is possible if we handle it cleverly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we all agree that every thing, you know, United States has done human rights violations. Every country in the world has had issues and will probably continue to have issues, right? So I think we agree that not everything should be encompassed in the KP definition. However, in the situation with Alrosa, It's directly involved in, it's directly owned by the Russian government. It directly finances the Russian government. There was a, story about a submarine and things like that. Isn't that kind of a different situation than perhaps, what the United States has done in Iraq or what the Chinese are doing? Isn't that a very different situation than some of these things that are, I would agree, or, Israel, or, than some of these more extraneous situations?
I think we should not go on hearsay. Like you just said, there is a submarine, and the name is Al Rosa. In honor of Al Rosa, they named a submarine like that. There is no connection. Like there were stories in the press about Al Rosa doing nuclear, doing all kind of, how do you call it, plutonium excavation. We did a research to that. There was no proof of that at all. It has nothing to do with it. So we have to stick to the facts. And the facts are that the way they do it in Russia is correct. Now, you come to a very different subject, and what happens to the money? The money goes to Yakutia, it is reinvested, and some of the money goes to the government, and some of that money will be used by the government for whatever, all the things they do. But then if you say, okay, but they buy or make weapons here, and the diamonds come from there, and there is a direct link, I don't think that is the correct theory, because it's very far-fetched. Is it impossible? No, it is not. But you can't say, and because of that, suddenly all the Russian diamonds, although they are produced under the right circumstances, are blood diamonds. No, you introduce a political argument into the equation that is not correct.
Right, but it's the
Am
first...
I defending Russia? No, not at all. I'm not defending the war. I'm just talking about the diamond issue, and that I don't see that connection. But if you want to make it, yes, of course, then it is there.
But it's the first time in, I guess, 19 years that one Kimberley process member has attacked another. That's something, right? That's a little disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I think that the discussion at the KP, as it started in Botswana, was valuable and correct, because you can't close your eyes for it. We had, as a diamond industry, we had the following argument before we went to Botswana. We told the countries involved, so the United States State Department and other countries, and the chair of the KP in Botswana, we said, we respect that discussion is taking place. After that, we have to continue the work on the KP. And that's what happened. There was a big fight. Then the chair suspended the whole proceedings. And it took 3 hours to talk to the various participants. And then was decided that we continue with the agenda. Now and then it flared up, but there is this political situation, and there is technical work that has to be done on the KP in order to let the KP function correctly. So I respect very much that the discussion was there, and it should take place. There is no place to kick out Russia or any other country, because that also asks for consensus. Let me talk a little bit about consensus, if I may, because people very often say, and because of that, it doesn't work. Without a consensus, the United Nations would never have been able to form the Kimberley process. The only reason why it was done was because of consensus. Not a single country can walk away with something in regard to any field in the KP, and it would not have been possible if we not have done this. I was discussing today with some colleagues, and the civil society has asked to do away with this that would mean that instead of observers, civil society, WDC would become participants in the KP. I'm not so much in favor of that, because then there is a risk that on anything that is proposed that is new, one of the new partners would veto that. And then you would get nowhere. It could be us, could be civil society. So I'm actually in favor of keeping the system as it is. It is the only way to keep the governments with a positive attitude in the KP.
Okay. Do you, but, you know, the idea that this consensus, it stops things from happening, you know, a lot of a lot of organizations, including Joanne's, have left because they thought, okay, this is a waste of time, nothing ever gets accomplished. How do you, you know, because it is so bureaucratic and because so many people have to sign off on even minor decisions, you know, could there be, you don't necessarily have to destroy the Kimberley process, but say, okay, maybe there should be a different system, another kind of parallel track that you kind of referred to. And, you know, whether it's the World Diamond Council or some other group, I mean, should we start thinking, okay, this is it's in its little narrow box, it is what it is, but, you know, there's a lot of problems in the world and there's a lot of different consumer expectations, and we need to start thinking about you know, a different kind of approach rather than just kind of relying on this very bureaucratic process.
The answer to that is yes. I think that people who ask to destroy the KP are totally irresponsible, but I also think we have to think about, is there a KP2 in the future? During the discussions that I heard today and this morning, but also an article in The Economist last week about cobalt. If I read what is happening there, in abuse of kids, in unhealthy circumstances, child labor, the worst of the worst. And I compare that to what we have achieved so far, we are way ahead of other industries. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. Should we think and be creative, think out of the box about a KP2? Yes. I've talked about that with many experts, and we have not yet come up with a proposal or a solution of that. But I think this is what we have. We build on that with the different layers I explained. It is not good enough, and we want more. So yes, we have to think and build on new systems as well.
Right, and I would argue that because the diamond industry, you know, fairly or not, its failures have perhaps been more widely publicized than other industries. It currently has a competitor on the market, lab-grown diamonds, which has, certain companies have exploited that history. It's a luxury product that nobody needs to buy. You know, perhaps, you know, whether you consider it fair or just, I mean, it's not a fair world, obviously. You know, the bar is a little higher for the diamond industry. And right now, we're arguably perhaps not living up to the expectations people have.
Well, number one, I have nothing against synthetic diamonds, man-made diamonds, lab-grown, whatever you want to call them. I'm not sure always about how and where they are produced, and the energy they use, etc. Some are energy neutral, CO2 neutral, and others are absolutely not. Well, let's say the World Diamond Council, we use the example of lab-grown diamonds in the Kimberley process as a warning to producing countries. Millions of people depend with their livelihood on natural diamonds in Africa, in India, in the United States, all over the world. And that is, we have to be very careful not to damage or destroy that. that the livelihood of those people depend on consumer confidence. Consumer confidence you can damage very easily. Reputation, as we all know, comes by foot and leaves in gallop. But I use the example when we have talks with African countries, producing countries, that there is nothing against synthetic diamonds, but this is a danger for you. Because we will sell diamonds. Some of the people here around the room are selling lots of synthetic diamonds with great success. But we should be very careful not to destroy the natural diamond industry at the same time. So the competition of lab-grown diamonds is very welcome. It's a beautiful product, but it is a danger for the people who make their living and who are depending on the production and polishing, etc., of natural diamonds.
Okay, I mean, I guess I have a couple more of the tough questions, but what do you know, it's very hard for us, you know, we look at the KP, we get frustrated, we want change, we haven't been able to make it. Is there anything that we can do to perhaps either improve the Kimberley process or, you know, use our power, whether as people in the trade or people as consumers, to improve conditions in the diamond industry generally?
When I was listening this morning to stories about the Amazon and about mercury and gold, and I had exactly the same feeling that you asked now, and what can we do about it? We vote, we drive electric cars, so what are we doing about helping the world to get ahead of this? And how can we as a human being help this? Well, if you talk about, I said ethical values and standards is that you as a consumer, as an individual, you can do what you want to do. In the industry, I can make a contribution to improve the diamond world. As I said, sometimes when I have a feeling that we improve the lives of a few people, as we have done in Zimbabwe and in other countries, then at least we have made our own contribution by working years and years and years, but that's what it is all about. It is about the people on the ground. It is the people involved in the diamond industry. So what we do as a World Diamond Council, as so many other organizations, the RJC and others, also in America, by pushing and pulling the diamond industry, but also the producing countries and the polishing countries. And if it is frappé tous where you repeat and you repeat till it works. And now I was very proud when I was in Botswana, and a few of the NGOs told us how much the situation had improved. And that is the yield you have from all the work. Because there's a Jewish expression, if you save one life, you save the world. That's what it is about. The question, like this morning about the Amazon, I was asking myself, and what the heck can we do about saving when Brazil itself doesn't do it? I don't have the answer to that, but I know that if we don't do anything, that as a human being, we have to put all our energy and effort in trying to do it. And that's what it is all about. And that's what you do with your critical articles in JCK, and that's what I do in the WDC, and that is what Ronnie van der Linden is doing in the diamond industry. That's what we all try to do, and not only think of making money, but think of getting the diamond world ahead of this system that we are in now.
Right, and I know, I mean, I've known you for years, I know you're a caring person, I know you do care about people on the ground, I know Ronnie does, I know a lot of people here do, but not everybody in the industry does, right? I mean, that's an unfortunate fact, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't have these issues. So how do we kind of do a better job at self-policing and making sure that everybody understands that this is a new world and people have to kind of live up to the highest standards.
That's something that you might also ask yourself sometimes about journalism.
Well,
It's something that I regularly ask myself about the work I do. I'll give you an example. When I became president of World Diamond Council in 2014, I was talking about accountability and transparency. Now we are 8 years later, and there is no need to talk about that because there's nobody in the diamond world who doesn't show accountability and transparency. Things have changed. It takes a long time, but things in the diamond industry improve. And we can prove that because the discussion we had then, which did not make me very popular in the industry in those days, we don't have it anymore because every diamond bourse, every country has changed the way they worked. And now accountability, keeping up the books, paying your taxes is more normal than it was 8 years ago. So when I say you have to repeat the questions where we are going, then you won't believe it, but sometimes it takes a long time, but you have an influence on it. If you talk about leadership in the diamond industry, you have a responsibility to show to others who are daily business trying to make a living, because that's what we all do, to think and think about the transparency of what they are doing. Think about, for instance, the RJC is very big in sustainability, and we would like to translate that in what does it mean for your day-to-day life as a diamantair. That's the step that you have to make. And then there are hundreds of thousands of diamantairs in India, but in the end we have to explain that that is where we have to go. And it is repeating and it is showing that this is where we have to go. And that is what we try, we fail, and sometimes we succeed. And those are the rare moments of success.
and I remember actually when you started being president of the WDC, you were talking about some of the weaknesses in Dubai, right? And Dubai was just put on the FATF gray list, you know, right after it became the kind of leading diamond center in the world. Is that, you know, is that a problem for the overall industry, especially when it deals with, you know, stopping, you know, conflict diamonds and going for greater transparency? The fact that Dubai is now the leading diamond center, and yet, you know, a leading kind of financial watchdog has said that its controls are not good enough.
I'm not going to defend Dubai, but I think that they have improved their situation tremendously. I talked recently to people in the Emirates about the import of Russian diamonds, and there are none, zero. There are no Russian diamonds in Dubai. The sanctions work. The FATF, which we know very well from the report they wrote about the diamond industry, I look at the criminals who are in Dubai, and there was no extradition agreement between the Netherlands and Dubai. Most of those criminals are now sitting in the jail in the Netherlands, because Dubai is improving what they do. And there is, of course, some way to go, but I think they are now, not because of nothing, one of the largest diamond centers in the world. And that is because things have changed. In my opinion, things have improved considerably in Dubai. Okay. I don't say it is perfect, but they have improved.
Okay, I'm going to, we have to wrap up. You can always ask Edward questions during the drink. So I have actually one more question, because you have been you have a dime business. You've been in actual politics in the Netherlands. You were in the Senate, I believe, the Netherlands, correct? I volunteer, on the board of my apartment building, and I know, how long, you volunteer for these things, and you realize just how much work it takes and how much effort it involves, and, you just get a lot of, questions like the ones I'm shooting at you, so it's, I just want to know, you have another year left. I think, even though you're kind of dealing the WDC line, I know that you've always been a voice for reform and for pushing things forward. And I would like to kind of, get your reflections on all the service you've done and what you see kind of, coming next to you. Do you plan, because I know you have another year as the WDC president, do you plan to stay involved?
Yeah, no, well, I think there is not a point on the horizon that you can say, I'm going to achieve this in the next 12 months and then I'm happy. No, we are pushing and pulling in the hope that we improve the situation in the diamond industry in general. And then after me comes Ferial Zerouki, Senior Vice President of De Beers, and she will continue doing the same work. And then you look back and you say, well, I hope I did some good for the well-being of the diamond industry and the young people who are succeeding us. And that's enough.
Okay, well, again, I really admire all the work you've done. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
The issues discussed by Edward Asscher and Rob Bates figure prominently in IAC's monthly webinar series, which is now in its third year, as well as in our annual conference. We expect to hold the 13th annual Gold and Diamond Conference next July, the 17th through the 19th of July. We hope you will join us, and we welcome your engagement in our activities. Thank you.